So please give a huge welcome to Konrad Sauer.
So I've been a professional plane maker for about 25 years, and this is what I make. It's called an infil plane. It is a metal shell or a metal body that has been filled in or infilled with wood. That's where it gets its name from. It originated in the UK and Scotland around 150 years ago or so. There were a number of original makers that Stuart Spears and Thomas Norris and Alex Matheson, those were the big three. And they sort of perfected this design of tool. At any given point, there are probably 5 of us in the world that do this in a professional capacity. So I feel very fortunate that it's been 25 years for me that I've been able to do it well enough that it's sustained our family. So I feel that's great, and I'm in Australia. So this is a plane that I started specifically for the Lost Trades Fair. It has bronze sides, a bronze lever cap, and a tool steel, an 01 tool steel sole. And this golden colored wood has been dyed and stabilized. It is called box elder burl. And at home, it is not a very popular wood because it grows very, very quickly. It's kind of a weed. It's very lightweight. It has no BTUs, meaning it's almost useless for firewood, but it's white. It's very, very white. And so this piece of wood has been put into a vacuum chamber under 3,000 PSI, submerged in a liquid acrylic, for lack of a better phrase, with dye. And what happens is it's left for a couple of weeks, and under all that pressure, all of the air gets pulled out of the wood and gets replaced with that liquid, and some of that color gets pulled into it. And I don't know if I do that, can you see all right? You can see that there are little areas here that are not affected by the color. So you get these really wild patterns in it. And you basically have now an inert material that has a wood matrix to it. And so one of the challenges with plane making is that you have a piece of wood that is bound on 3 sides with metal. And wood naturally expands and contracts with seasonal movement. That's not a good combination when you're trying to maintain a flat sole and you've got a wooden or a metal shell that is trying to contain it. 0.02 of an inch of wood movement will be catastrophic for this tool. So that's about the thickness of one of your hairs. Our hairs are about 3 thou. So minuscule amount of movement. So this being an inert material is really, really advantageous. There's another wood, any of the true rosewoods, so any of the Dalbergias, those have some really amazing, unique qualities about them that they, over decades of expand, contract, they will self-compact and shrink down to a point where they effectively stop moving. And that makes them a really appropriate material for this type of work. So I took this plane as far as I wanted to go with it and then bring it here and finish it off at the fair. So I have filed the mouth on it. It's a fully functional tool. The difference is that these edges still need to be rounded over and shaped because right now they're still kind of sharp. This one that I have, this was I made in 2007. This was a prototype. This is a rosewood plane. And if you want, if you want to grab it, you can just pass it along and you guys can take a look at it. It's been dovetailed together as well, same way that this one's been built. And then you can see all the joinery. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start shaping this front infill. It needs to be rounded over this way and rounded over this way. And so I have a pretty simple setup that I use for this. This is a wooden hand screw that has leather jaws in it. And then I'm going to open this up and hold this rear infill. And then this goes in here. So this combination or this setup allows me, if I needed to, I could tilt this to give me more access. I could rotate this to give me more access. So I'm a big fan of Pattern Maker's vices, which do all of this. They rotate, they swivel, they pivot, they do things. this is the poor man's version of it, and in some ways is nicer because it leaves the area I'm trying to work really far forward and exposed. So I've got really, really good access to it. So what I'm going to do, and this is actually, the shaping part is probably my favorite part of plane making. I approached plane making and realized that there's metalworking involved, which I have no training in. So in my brain, I switched to metal is a strange wood with strange properties. And that sort of has allowed me to kind of get my head around how to treat it. Apologies to any machinists or blacksmiths out here. So I use white pencil crayons a lot. A lot of the woods that I work with are dark, and this shows up really well. I do use graphite pencils for lighter woods, but most of it is dark. So I'm going to use a white pencil crayon, and this is an adjustable square. I'm using this because it'll allow me to draw a consistent line. I'm not shooting for a particular measurement. I get a lot of machinists will ask me, how do you calculate for spring back for this curve, because it's not a consistent curve. And I just tell them I bend it until it's the right shape. It has to fit with this part. That's all it has to do. It's not a math problem. This is just shape it until it fits problem, which it's difficult sometimes to understand. But so I'm just going to set this to what I think looks and feels right, and I'm just going to scribe a line, and I'm just going to come around here and trace this over. And then I'm going to do it, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger at the front, so I'm going to move this a bit and draw a line there. And then I'm going to draw a line there, and then a line there. So that's sort of my kind of rough shaping. So if you look at that little plane that's being passed around, it's just a scaled down version of this. And it's not as simple as just rounding that, rounding that, rounding that. There's a lot of other things that are going on as that's happening, and I'll try and explain that as I'm doing it. This is a Japanese rasp that I was really these are no longer made, and I was really fortunate to acquire it. It has a little Snoopy Dog logo on it. And so if you want to go into the weeds and are looking for really good Japanese rasps, look for that little Snoopy Dog. If you see it, don't care what the price is, buy it. It's a really, really weird pattern. It looks more like dragon scales than anything else, but it cuts through everything that I've ever thrown at it. So I'm going to start with this. I'm also going to back out this screw just so I don't accidentally ding it. And I'm going to tip this down a little bit. I normally would put a piece of tape across that to keep any dust from getting in there, but we're not going to worry about it. So my first task is I've got a line on the top and this line down here. Sorry, gotta get rid of my watch. I'm just going to start shaping it. So again, this is going to probably look odd because I'm a lefty and might look weird. So I'm constantly changing my angle of attack and my hand position because I'm watching and feeling for the cut patterns that I'm establishing, and I'm sort of watching them appear, reappear, and that's telling me when I'm keeping this as a consistent arc. This would not be a fun thing or an easy thing to do with something like a router. Figuring out how to jig this and fixture this and give yourself clearance and not have a router bit hit something. And 30,000 RPMs in this tight area with burl, that's just not anywhere I want to go. And this allows me to kind of watch it happen. And gauge what's going on. So I'm kind of flattening out a little bit. I don't really want to go past this line. And I want to ease this into this flat face as much as I can. So I'm going to try not to touch that white pencil line, but if I do, it's not the end of the world. When I started off with the block of wood that is this front infill, there's this little green pocket here. That looked kind of catastrophic when I was fitting everything. There was a huge void here, and I was trying to position it in a way that I knew that I would shape this out once I had the final shape. And I was very relieved once I had put the infill in and installed it and had lapped it and cut this out. And I thought, okay, that will be gone, because I didn't want a big hole in that corner. It's always, I really enjoy working with this dyed stabilized wood because it allows me to make really almost outlandish colors. I've made a few hot pink planes, which is sort of crazy, but they're really beautiful. And the dust that I'm getting right now, this gold colored dust is really, 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 really cool. So right now I'm just shaping that, rounding that over. I'm not introducing any other shape to it. I'm just trying to get more or less round. And I can come down here and check it, see where it's at. So that's probably for me to go to the next stage. That's close enough. So I've just rounded that front nose over. So I'm going to tackle this corner next. And so I'm going to take this line. It's now been removed from here, but that's okay. I've got enough of a line here to tell, and I kind of know where that line is there. I'm also doing this because I really want to get rid of that green hole. Are you able to hear the cutting action of this well? So you can kind of hear that there's a bit of a flow to it and a bit of a pace to it. So when I'm coming down flatter, the cut is a little bit lighter. It's not quite as crisp because I just don't want to accidentally cut into this finished surface. Like there, it's a pretty light cut, and then that gets more aggressive as I come up. So I'm just kind of freehand blending these two things together. And I will often, I'll often kind of get behind it, just kind of look at it. And there's a lot of this is visual too. So really, really good light is important. This is actually quite good in here. So there's only a little bit of that white pencil crayon, more or less in the middle, which just tells me that I've kind of rolled that corner a little bit in both directions. And when I stand back, I can see that it is radiused like this. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this face, which is sort of parallel. I'm going to start rounding it this way. So what I'm doing is I'm forming these corners to still look like corners, but from an ergonomic standpoint and a tactile standpoint, I want your hand to be able to fit on this and not feel sharp anywhere. So this is sort of the process that I go through for the kind of systematic process for getting to that shape, which again, you couldn't really do with a router. So this is, I think, partly why I love doing this kind of work. The other thing I'm watching for is this corner. I still have a little bit of white pencil crayon here, a little bit at the front, and a little bit here. And I'm just watching to make sure that that line is more or less, there's a little bit of a shoulder still that's going to follow that corner and that little chamfer down there. And it's been kind of moving back and forth as I've been going. The other thing that has started to form is there's this flat, straight, polished chamfer that went all the way up initially. And I've got this little point here on each corner. And so shortly I'm going to start keeping an eye on that as well to make sure that it's not, it doesn't, droop too far on one side or the other. I use my hands a lot. I don't look at it. Like I spend a lot of time looking at it, but then I also just ignore what I'm looking at and just feel it. Because your hands they'll give you an awful lot of information that your eyes can sometimes give you mistakenly. I'm going to switch to a different file. This is now a file, so that's a rasp. This hand is sort of the driving force doing this. And this hand, I'm doing this. I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but I'm kind of doing that with it. Most of the woods that I'm working with, any of the rosewoods or ebony or anything like that, they're really hard and dense. And you can often safely do that. But you don't want to have too aggressive of a tool because if it does grab, it can just blow that all out. But this stuff, because it's been stabilized and does have sort of plastic-ish qualities to it, you can pretty comfortably do it. Good question. The question was, do I use the same finish on every wood? Most of the time I do. I use French polish, which is shellac. On a lot of the woods, any heavy oil finish will really darken it and muddy it and kind of kill all of the grain clarity and all of that, which I really enjoy that. I want to see the wood. So French polish or shellac does that, allows for that really well. It's also repairable. So I've got a number of customers who, in use, that French polish will wear off, and they just re-French polish their plane if they want to, or they just allow your hand to kind of burnish the wood down and burnish the polish off. And I've got a plane from, this one, wherever it is. That's from 2007. There's a big section of French polish that's missing. And to me, that's the story of the tool. It's a well-used tool. So I have had people come from pretty far away, all over Europe, and to, obviously they're not just coming specifically just to do that, but they combine with a holiday or whatever. And yeah, I've got a full army of my own personal planes that are all the tester planes. And that is the best way to know, is to physically put it in your hand and see, if for people who are older, whose hands aren't as strong or have arthritis or all sorts of issues, the width of the plane or the size of the handle, all of that stuff makes a big difference. One of the other things is the weight of the plane. So there are certain species that are lighter than others in weight. And so I always go through a series of questions. Do you want or need this to be lighter? If you want, we can switch it into, these two species will really lend itself. So the difference between East Indian rosewood and African blackwood on a handled plane is going to be a pound. That's a big, imagine a pound of butter, stuck on the top of the plane. So there are some certain things that you can do to accommodate. And that, again, for me, that's what a custom tool maker ought to be able to do. It's easy. It would be easier for me. Actually, it wouldn't be easier for me. You could argue it'd be easier just to make the same thing over and over and over again. From a production standpoint, I would lose my mind. Like I really enjoy the relationship with the end user, the customer. I don't have a reseller because I want that connection. I want to be able to email the person photographs as I'm making their plane. Very few people get to see that. And it lets them into kind of my little world. So that's been something I've done from the beginning and really enjoyed doing.